Hey, Anthony here from the Best in the West. Today we are pumping concrete for another contractor. So we'll talk about how to start a concrete business, what pump and mix you need for your area, for freeze areas, and what's the best to use and what people are using. Because pumping's my passion out of everything I do. It was the first thing that brought me to concrete, and this is the first thing I did. And I just ran a concrete service for about maybe 5, 6, 8, 10 years, and I had bobcats and dumps, but concrete was my main genre, my main thing that I did. And I had about 4 pumps going at once when I was full steam. I owned 5, but I kept one at the yard. I never ran 5 a day. I ran 4 and I had a backup. And I put these videos up, and with social media and everything now, everybody can see how concrete's placed by a pro. Without social media, I had never seen any other states pour concrete, obviously, and they probably the same for everybody. So everybody got to see what everybody does, and you could see what's the way to go. This is the place to be, is with a pump. This pump's 3/8 pea gravel with a 2-inch line. This pump's designed to run. This is an Olin 545. It's manufactured in Huntington Beach, and it's designed to run. You can run 2-inch all the way out off the pump. But most people, and I use 2-inch, so you don't 2.5 off the pump. Then I reduce it down so there's not so much back pressure. Or if you plug up, the pump's just stroking better. I use 2-inch. You can use 2-inch, no problem. But most people don't. But this is the way to go. And I put videos up, and there's so many people that want to do this and learn it, but they're not putting in the legwork and finding out like what mix they use in their area, what pump they would need, because there's 2 different kinds of pumps. There's a swing tube or a rock valve pump, which is like a Schwing or Putzmeister, those type of brands, a Reed, and they pump 3/8, a bigger rock, bigger aggregate, and it swings over and swings back, and there's a surge in the line. And if in a lot of freeze areas and in different countries, Canada, the East Coast, Midwest, evidently they use a lot of 3/4 inch rock. It used to be a thing out here up until probably mid-90s, and then everyone just aborted it, and it's been 3/8 pea gravel. I started pumping probably 99, 2000, right in there, and it's always been the 2. I had 3/4 rock pumps at one point. I had 2, and then I had 2 pea gravels, but that stuff was, the money's in the setup. So with a pea gravel pump, you can pump it down, wash out, 45 minutes, you're gone. The 3/4 rock pump, I could only get 1 in a day. You charge more for that pump out here, but I couldn't get as many jobs in, and you're lugging 3 and 4-inch hose around, and you see these pea gravel pumps with a 2-inch line, and you're like, man, that thing's like a water hose. And it does surge a little bit and leave rubber marks, so if you hose it off right away, it's not a thing. But if you leave them on a hot day, they'll embed, and they're hard to get up. You just hose it and rub it with your shoe. But people who call me all the time, a lot of people haven't done their homework and talk to dispatchers and what mix they use, and I could guide you which pump to get, what would suit you, what you're going to pump. If you're doing high yardage jobs, you need a 70 or 90 yard an hour pump. 70 yard an hour is plenty. And if you're just doing residential and you're just going to be an everyday pumper for concrete contractors, 50 or 40 yard an hour or 50 yard an hour is fine. But if you're doing high volume, 100, 200 yards, like I had a 70 yard Putzmeister, and I do a couple hundred yards with it, and just fire it down with a 3-inch line. So it depends what they do in your area and what people want. Because if you buy one of these pumps for 100 G's with the system, and you take it to, just say, a place that uses 3/4, you're going to be obsolete. And people are like, we don't use that. And you got a $100,000 pump, and it's completely different pumping too. There's no reverse on this pump. You can't take the pressure off. So when you plug up, the piston will go, when you unclamp it, it's in all the pressures from the back manifold to the plug. Say it's just hypothetically, the plug is 150 feet out, and you plug. So from the pump to the plug, all the pressure's in there. So you bleed the air off, what excess you have on there. Psh, shut the valve, turn the pump off, and just it's just a little hand grenade. It's gonna pop. It's not too bad. But if you keep trying to push the remote on, you're going to keep plugging back towards the pump till a pump plugs all the way to the manifold with these pumps. With the 3/4 pump, you can put it in reverse and suck the pressure off. And sometimes you can leave it in reverse for a minute or two, just sucking back, and then throw it forward and see if it'll move. Sometimes you can pull the plug out. So there's two totally different kind of pumps that I think a lot of people getting into it think it's just like a friggin' water weenie, and you just hook it up, run water through it on the ground, and you make all this money. You're gonna fail, trust me, and you become successful as a pumper by failing. There's no way around it. There's so many variables. There's so many things that can screw you up. The driver can screw you up. The ready mix plant can screw you up. The sand they got that day can screw you up. The concrete guys there's just so many variables. The weather, the soil. Before everything got digital, they used weights and measures when they dropped the load, when they batched the concrete. And sometimes they'd have a 7 o'clock job with 10 yards on it, and the guy used 7, and there's 3 on it, and they just loaded it on top of it. They're reselling it. And then if you got a third round job, if you had a 7 o'clock job, you're getting a fresh load, because obviously they didn't have any crap in their drum. Second round job, I could feel it, hot mud. I knew that they had a yard or 2 on it. I became so close with the dispatchers, they would say, hey, don't mess around with that load. It's got 2 yards on from this morning. And it's noon, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't say anything because that wasn't my place, and I would just fire it down. Like, hey, man, we got to keep moving. That's a 4-cylinder, probably 74 horse turbo Deutsch. This is a badass pump. It's got a Y manifold. It's a simple, there's not much to it, really. There's a motor, a hydraulic pump, some pistons and cylinders. I mean, there's not much to it. And then there's a nitrogen bottle that, as it pumps, it puts air in the line. That's why I can lay the hose over forms and different things. That's why there's so many hard places to access here. And when they had the 3/4 pump and it's just surging back and forth, it's tearing the forms down. If you had to go up on a wall and over it, there's so many reasons why you can't use a 3-inch line out here or don't want to. But if you're going to do a big foundation in the open or a city approach or anything, you can, you can shoot it. 3/4 is fine, whatever. But that's not what they use here, and they've got it down to a science where it lasts. It doesn't crack up. It doesn't, do what people try and say. They don't know. I did the Big Bear Zoo, and it's in a freeze area, the Alpine Zoo. I poured that whole zoo in with pea gravel in the freeze and steel troweled it. And it's still perfect. Look at the cages where they have the bears, the whole thing. I've been back up there 6 years later, and it looks perfect. And I did it probably, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, probably. It's a privately owned zoo. That was all pea gravel. So I don't get what people are saying. Or I think generations ago they were incompetent, and then the next guy came in. And they said, "Oh, you can't put a steel trowel on it. You can't do this." But they don't have any logic behind what they're saying. I'm not positive, but like I said, I did the Big Bear Zoo in the freeze in the winter and steel troweled it, so I'm pretty sure you can. I mean, you could test some areas with it and see what it does, but I don't think you got to use 3/4 rock. And now they got I talked to a lot of people call me, and they want to use a 2-inch line in their other states, so they're very interested in it, because California obviously is the standard, the highest standard you're going to see just by, press videos on mine and line them up and look at my Rolodex, my videos compared to everybody else's. And that's just a straight fact. I'm not here to try and get subs and, I wanted to promote the pumping and people to see it and the Bobcat and the breaker and everything I do. That was my intention when I started, and for customers to see my work. And, I get so many calls on the pump, but you got to do your homework and you got to know what you want. I mean, people call me up just, oh yeah, I want a pump like that. And, well, where do you live, dude? Oh, I live in blah blah blah, Delaware, whatever, Maine, whatever. I'm like, I don't think they use pea gravel there, dude. And you have to, for this to start taking off all over, you got to get on point with the dispatcher. You got to have him batching you correctly and what you need and what will go through this pump. Because I pumped some rocky mixes and just, plug, beating the hose out, shaking out, just get through it, It's just a 3/8 mix. I could tell you what mix design we use and what pound of everything, and it's a 2-inch line mix. And I heard on the East Coast they got a new mix in Massachusetts. A guy I know is pumping out there with a pea gravel pump just like mine, and it's called an East Coast pump mix or something like that. It's 4,500. I think they bumped the rock down a little bit, and he showed me videos of it, and they're firing it down. So I think it's starting to move around the country, and people are starting to understand how to do it. I mean, before YouTube and social media, California was the highest standard still, but how would you know unless you moved from there and worked here on a regular basis and saw these jobs? You know what I mean? Can you imagine Georgia buggying this thing or wheelbarrowing it and the step up there and dumping it and having 5 guys wheelbarrow it? I mean, it's just moronic. I mean, those buggies, there might be a use for like moving gravel or tulips or something with it. I don't know what, but the pump's obviously the way to go. I mean, this isn't, they got those buggies where Jack got his beanstalk. Those things are a joke. You see a grown, bloated man with his boobs bouncing driving that thing. It's ridiculous. I mean, the people who think that are the same guys that have cameras on top of their head. I mean, they just it makes no sense. If you watch every California video on social media, you'll see every guy's doing the same thing, and the work is so much higher caliber. There's no 10% water reducer and just water hit the ground and, you know, I'm a finisher, this is how you kick screed or whatever, you know. I'm just saying stuff I've seen. I'm not sure who everybody is on there, but you could tell the people in California and a couple other people have, you can look at a business by what equipment, the way they run it, if it's profitable, if you know what you're doing. I can look at guys on here and I can tell you right away, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's got all this equipment, all these guys. You can shorten, the less you have, the better. You know, it's not convoluted. You don't have all this stuff everywhere. You know, I'm not even dirty. Look how easy everyone's working. It's a hot day, 2 finishers, no access, and me pumping it. Oh, once again, check out Sydney Ray, my video assistant, on Instagram, Sydney Ray 05, if you could do that. She's a great person. She'll be graduating this year, and we're going to do a whole different format. I don't have a mic on me, and there's no more voiceovers probably. I'll have a couple props. You know, I tried to show these guys how to do custom work, but they weren't talented enough, so I'm going to show them how to use props. I'm going to bring some just absolute classics out. And this is a hook, so what you do is, it's a candy cane, a hook. You clamp your hose to it. You run your pump down. Do not put water in your hopper when you have mud in it. It'll separate and plug on you. Like I said, there's so many variables. This is one of the trickier things of pumping, is to wash out or prime it out. Once you prime it out and you get concrete, you're generally pretty good. I say generally, I mean anything can happen. I've had the worst stuff happen to me, but that's how I got so good at what I did. I wasn't afraid to lose control or plug up or be embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. I'm trying to learn how to do this, but I was super strong, and I had major horsepower, red line, 10,000 RPM, so I could shake out 300 feet of hose like it was butter. And these guys are like, Jesus Christ. And I would pull the hose myself when I was a regular pumper, just get away, you know. So they didn't, the same guys loved me, the high-end contractors that I used when I was just a pumper, because they know I was going to take the reins and just do the whole thing, knock it down. And we're in and out of there, and the objective was to get the concrete down, and that definitely happened. I never lost a hose. I've had some bad episodes unclamping under, you know, when you start, you're kind of rattled and it plugs up, but you don't want to keep turning it on or it'll keep plugging. It'll literally suck, the pressure will suck the water out of it, and then you got sand and rock. Now you're going to get sand packed. And washing out's tricky. You want to run the pump down, but not below the manifold. Because if water gets down in the manifold, which of course has happened to me before, it's going to plug in the manifold with the washout. So when you unclamp the back end, what do you think the water? Gravity, whoosh, it just comes out. You're screwed, you know. And they say, oh, get these tubs and this shit. How do you move it? The tub with, you know, 20 gallons of water in it. Where do you put it, on their property? I mean, what do you do with a tub? I don't get it. So it is what it is. There's my boy Big D. He's a concrete contractor also. He'll be out at the jobs a lot. And he just started YouTube too. I'll put the link up when he gets cracking. It's Complete Concrete. Javier is also a contractor too, and he'll be posting and doing stuff too, as you guys know. He comes and goes with me. But the pumping has really been good. It was an awesome, out of any trade, of anything you're going to do, I think this is the best place to be personally. And now these dudes got to get down. And people are telling me they're making like $900 for 5 yards in other states. That's not the case in California. It's so saturated. I was driving from Huntington Beach to Brea today, and I saw 4 different pumps on the freeway in a 30-minute ride. They're everywhere because everything's pumped here. Nothing's wheelbarrowed. I've never seen a Georgia buggy in my life, or whatever that thing's called, the motorized wheelbarrow. There's none of that stuff. People out here, I mean, you're rolling up to these houses, it's got to be flawless. And you can literally do it as a team, synchronize in this like one tight-fitting unit, you know? Everyone knows the routine because it's the same way you pour on every job. Oh, we're going to put, I just told Javier and the boys, hey, we'll put it over there. I don't even need to say anything, and we'll yank it that way, disconnect it. And you could disconnect hose too, like if you're 300 feet out and it keeps coming back towards you, and then you're down, down to 150 feet. And I have a washout bowl that I use with a water hose. I got to show you guys. It is so, you screw it onto a hose bib, and then you clamp it with a clamp. It has an end like the hose, and you clamp it on your hose. You disconnect it, and then you turn the water on, and the little sponge goes through it. I'll show it on one of these jobs. I should have done it here. And I want to thank everyone who watches West Coast. We got a whole new format coming in a month when Ladybug, the videographer and media girl, graduates. Everything's going to be live. I'm going to have a speaker on me. You're going to hear how much I actually know, the way I run the show. It's going to kill the haters, but, it'll probably decimate the rest of the people on here. There's a real concrete channel with real work, custom work. And here's Javier brooming this. You guys seen his work. I want to thank everybody. And there's how you pour a tight spot. Thank you very much for watching the Best in the West.